You're tuned in to Tax Talk DC with the Office of Tax and Revenue. Join us as we offer insights on the city's tax initiatives, share important resources for residents, and get answers to some of your most pressing tax questions. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Valentine.
Hello, and welcome to Tax Talk DC, where we break down the tax topics that matter most to you. I'm your host, Jennifer Valentine, and we've got another great episode lined up for you today. It's tax filing season, so we'll be using our time today to explore the administration within the Office of Tax and Revenue responsible for processing your return. We'll also cover ways you can file for free and what returns you can file electronically. Joining me for this discussion are two dedicated and knowledgeable experts from the Returns Processing Administration, also known as RPA, Director Lisa Green Meadows and Program Analyst Brandy Bermudez. First, Lisa and I will discuss the role of RPA in OTR, especially during tax filing season. Then, I'll talk with Brandy about the importance of using the MyTax portal to file for free and filing your business and individual income tax returns electronically. We have a lot we want to cover today, so let's get into it, DC. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennifer.
If you don't mind, I'd like to begin by sharing with our listeners a bit about your background and your role as Director of the Returns Processing Administration at OTR. How did you decide on tax administration as a career? And if you would, please walk us through some of the key responsibilities and challenges of your current role.
Well, thank you for that warm welcome, Jennifer, and good morning, everyone. I have been with the district for approximately 2 years, actually coming up this month, and currently I serve as the Director of the Returns Processing Administration for the Office of Tax and Revenue. Prior to my current role, I worked in leadership roles for the Virginia Department of Taxation, also within their returns processing section for 11 years. However, my professional career actually began in the private sector, working in manufacturing operations for 20 plus years prior to my role at Virginia Tax. After experiencing plant closings or business restructuring that moved operations overseas, my goal was to find a role within a more stable environment, so I chose public service, and the position at Virginia Tax utilized my operational experience that I obtained from manufacturing, so the transition was seamless.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that background, Lisa, and for sharing information about what sounds like quite a dynamic career thus far. I'd like to now offer our listeners a deeper look behind the scenes of RPA with you as our guide. What would you consider the administration's mission or primary goal? And what are some of the key functions your administration performs?
Sure, Jennifer. So Returns Processing Administration, or RPA, our primary goal is to efficiently process both electronic and paper income tax returns and payments. We do this by prioritizing quick turnarounds and creating customer-friendly filing options at minimal cost to the district. I have a group of diverse staff that perform tasks that can be very manual to highly technical, so their skill sets vary. Mm-hmm. For example, to process a paper tax return or check through our front-end processes requires mail handling, which is picking up and opening and sorting the mail, document screening and prepping, scanning and data entry, which are all labor-intensive tasks.
Right.
So to process returns and payments submitted electronically, of course, requires staff who are more technical, such as our business analysts whose focus is on our processing systems. Now, even though this is the core of our work, we are actually busier preparing for each tax season versus processing the returns during tax season.
Okay.
We work closely with developers to ensure all of our processing systems, including the vendor software, are tested and that they function properly. Our goal is to be ready by the IRS opening date, which is around late January. Mm-hmm. We consider this to be our start of our peak filing season, which extends through April. However, for filers who wait until the last minute, processing of these returns and payments can extend into the June timeline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We also update all of our tax booklets and forms, ensuring that any legislative impacts are incorporated. Even with the shift from paper, we do still provide limited quantities of the hard copies of these booklets and forms.
Right.
We also ensure that all tax return submissions and payments are accurately posted to the intended taxpayer's account. If there is an issue with a return or payment that impacts our ability to process it, we will send notices advising the taxpayers of the issue, which usually requires additional information or a replacement tax return.
Okay.
A lot of taxpayers may not know this, but we also have a requirement to retain all paper submissions for a specified retention period, which is usually around 7 years. We have dedicated staff that work with the Federal Records Center to prepare and deliver records for off-site secure storage until further destruction. Again, this is a physically demanding job because we still receive a substantial amount of paper documents.
Right.
However, we continuously strive to improve efficiency by creating more electronic filing options for our district taxpayers. Now, RPA doesn't stop there. We are responsible for printing and mailing district income tax notices, such as billing information and account status updates as well. Now, overall, Jennifer, RPA is a multi-operational unit with diverse responsibilities, but one ultimate goal, which is to efficiently process returns and payments at the lowest cost by reducing our paper and increasing electronic filing options. I'm very grateful for the knowledgeable staff that represent our administration and serve the district in that capacity.
Wow, thank you, Lisa, so much for that in-depth look at RPA's busy role in OTR, especially prepping for and during tax season.
Yes.
I think we're now in a pretty good position to discuss specifics about filing returns, and for that, we're going to jump over to Miss Brandy Bermudez. Hi, Brandy. Thanks so much for joining us today, and welcome to Tax Talk DC.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for welcoming us.
Now, Brandy, I mentioned earlier that you're a program analyst within RPA.
Yes.
Can you please share how long you've been with OTR and tell us a little bit about what your role in RPA entails?
Well, I joined OTR in 2023, and I work in the Systems and Forms unit of the Returns Processing Administration. And the System and Forms unit is responsible for the updating and revising tax booklets and forms, as well as writing requirements to make sure that our systems are able to properly process those forms.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I think we're definitely on track for a meaningful discussion about filing returns. So to start that off, what would you say are the advantages of filing electronically versus filing paper returns?
Well, electronic filing provides a much more efficient means of submitting returns and payments for taxpayers. Paper processing requires manual handling and entails multiple steps to get your documents into our processing system, which of course requires longer processing times. For example, a paper return or a check is picked up from the post office, delivered to our physical location and sorted. The mail is then opened to determine its contents, screened for accuracy, and then it's scanned into our processing system. And during tax season, this could take several weeks just due to the high volume of inventory that we have.
Right.
And it's not an efficient process, really. However, electronic submissions will go directly into our processing system in as little as 24 to 48 hours. Now, because of this, electronic filers will have the benefit of knowing within 24 hours after submitting their return if there are any issues. Electronic filing also allows for quicker communication and email notifications confirming the acceptance or denial of return submissions due to any errors. Whereas paper filers, they're notified by mail, and it can take at least 10 business days during non-peak season before a notification is even prepared and mailed out. During peak season, this time frame can be several more additional weeks, hence the efficiency of electronic filing.
Sure, that makes sense. That harkens back to what Ms. Lisa was talking about earlier. Now, we've laid out the benefits of filing electronically. Now tell us about the advantages of the MyTax application.
Well, first, it's free, right? Taxpayers can access the FR 500 to register their business, file returns, make payments. They can respond to notices they've received, get refund status updates, request a certificate of clean hands, and make real property payments along with several other options. Now, after completing the secure registration process to obtain log-on credentials, users will have access to multiple tax and business-related options. They're all free. There are several tax types available to businesses as well, such as sales and use, street vendor, ballpark fees, personal property, sports wagering, and withholding. And if your business uses the D30 unincorporated business franchise return to file annual income taxes, or you're a district resident who files a D40 individual income tax return, both are available for free as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It sounds like MyTax is quite a useful tool for filing returns and obtaining and sending other information. Now, are there plans to include other return types in the future? What's on the horizon for 2026?
That's a great question. And continuing efforts at providing a more efficient and customer-friendly option, we are adding the D40B non-resident refund request tax return to our MyTax portal. Now, this return is for non-residents who have had withholding in DC but are residents of another state. So along with a copy of your withholding documents, all D40B filers will be required to submit a copy of their state of residency return, or for states that do not have income tax, a copy of your federal return. That's before any refunds will be able to be issued, of course. But all of this can be submitted and uploaded through the MyTax portal when filing in 2026.
That's a great addition to the system. Now, let's shift gears a little bit to a pressing question, I think, for our listeners. How long does it take for you to process my income tax refund?
Yes, it really depends, Jennifer, on how and when you file.
Okay.
However, you can track your refund status through the MyTax portal. I mean, honestly, the earlier you file, the earlier you'll receive your refund. If you wait close to that April 15th date, it can be 6 to 8 weeks for an electronic submission. And for paper filers, you can add an additional 2 weeks just due to the manual prep work it takes for paper.
Sure.
But our filing season is in sync with the IRS opening day, which is typically late January. And peak is usually the week of April 15th, when most individuals are filing and when our inventory volumes, they drastically increase.
Right.
Hence the longer wait times for your refund.
It makes sense. Okay, that's really good information to know. And speaking of processing times, let's share with our listeners some of the common mistakes that may further delay the processing of my return.
That is another great question. The most common mistake we see with business filers is that they have not registered with us using the FR 500 business tax registration form, which can be completed via our MyTax portal. Failure to register really negatively impacts the ability to obtain a clean hand certificate. Now, also, businesses may use an incorrect taxpayer identification number assigned by the IRS, or they're simply not completing the required schedules that go along with their return. Now, for individual filers, the most common mistakes are issues with withholding documents, such as W-2s or 1099s that accompany those paper tax return submissions.
Okay.
The information on those may be illegible, or the information that's required is missing. We find that withholding may not be in DC, or the information just simply doesn't match the filer, such as there's a different name or a social security number. But taxpayers should really ensure their employer has all correct information on their withholding documents before they file.
Okay, that's great information, Brandy, and things we definitely want filers to be on the lookout for. Now, consequently, where can I find all of the tax booklets, forms, and instructions I need to file my returns?
Well, the quickest way to access these documents would be on our website at otr.cfo.dc.gov and then selecting the Forms drop-down header. Only current year paper versions of business and individual income tax booklets are available, but in limited quantities at the beginning of each tax season. However, taxpayers can pick up copies at our 1101 4th Street location or from the Martin Luther King Main Library and subsequent local libraries.
Okay, thanks for sharing that information with our listeners. Now, let's go back a little bit. Earlier, you mentioned the FR 500 business registration process when we were talking about the advantages of the portal. Now, what other advice can we offer to new businesses in the district?
The best advice would really be to understand your registration, licensing, and filing requirements before you do business in the district. Now, this requires registering with both the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, known as DLCP, their corporate division, and with the Office of Tax and Revenue. So not only do you have the requirement to be licensed, but you must also be registered with OTR to file your taxes. And you can find more information by visiting DLCP's website at dlcp.dc.gov, and then just visit MyTax to complete the OTR's FR 500 tax registration requirement. And DLCP is located at 1100 4th Street Southwest, which is conveniently located across the street from the Office of Tax and Revenue at 1101 4th Street Southwest.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful advice for businesses, Brandy, especially making sure they understand that they need to register with OTR and take care of their licensing requirements with DLCP. Now, before we wrap up, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about the One Big Beautiful Bill. This legislation does include significant federal tax changes, so are we aware yet of how this bill will impact DC's filing requirements?
Well, here's what I can say. Currently, the Office of Tax and Revenue's legal team is working aggressively and in collaboration with the mayor's office to determine impacts from the recently passed federal budget, or what is known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, once all those details are weeded out, we then will be able to determine impacts to tax filing requirements. So for now, stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
an unknown territory. We don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll look forward to receiving those updates as they become available. Before I jump back to you, Lisa, could you give the listeners the MyTax portal web address, Brandy, please?
Yes, and for all your tax questions and related forms, visit mytax.dc.gov.
All right, thank you. Now, Lisa, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. We have a little more time, so I just wanted to ask if there's anything else you would like our listeners to know about RPA, the returns processing function, process, anything that would be of benefit to them during filing season especially.
Sure, Jennifer. So just to let a lot of taxpayers know, especially those who are near our office or come into our office, that bringing your physical paper tax return to the office does not really make your return get processed any faster than mailing it in. But it will get processed faster if you use our free options, which is on our MyTax portal. We really, really, really want DC taxpayers to take advantage of those free options, because they're really underutilized. And, having that free option saves money to the district because we're handling less paper. Taxpayers don't have to pay for postage. But again, it's free. Going forward, we want to put out there as many free forms for taxpayers to access. The D40B is a big one that is processed on paper now, but putting that in MyTax is going to be very beneficial, not to only to the taxpayer, but also to the district as far as saving that cost with handling paper as well.
Right.
Our future goal is to also add the corporate tax return eventually as well to our portal. That will take a lot more development because there are so many schedules with those forms.
Sure.
And then there's also going to be a requirement for certain filers above a certain income threshold to also submit a copy of their federal return as well. And the MyTax portal is able to handle those types of demands, basically.
Okay. Now, can you talk a little bit about the safety of the system? I know people can be leery about putting their personal information online.
Of
and
course.
I think it's a good opportunity to reassure listeners that this is a safe tool for them to use for filing their tax returns.
Yes, it is, because we actually set it up where you actually have to register before you actually file. So when you register, you're going to provide us with your certain information that we already have in the system for those filers who's filed in the past.
Right.
And then for those filers who haven't filed in the past, like non-residents, there is a secure way of identifying you or validating you because your registration is not automatic, basically. So you will have to validate certain pieces of factual information before you have access to file your return.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, let's shift gears again a little bit and talk about maybe the structure of your administration. You talked about all the functions you performed earlier, and talk a little bit about how the administration is set up, what the units look like, about how many employees you have.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to know how many hands it takes to get all of this work done.
Yeah, so our administration is set up with 3 branches. We call them branches.
Okay.
One branch that we call our Receipts and Archives branch, and that branch is responsible for handling all of the paper.
Okay.
That branch, as well as our Systems and Forms branch, they actually create all of the forms and booklets and update that information. That's built from a group of mostly analysts. That's where Brandy works as well.
Yes.
So they're really technically based, and they actually work with the developer to identify any processing issues with our systems, like issues with our MyTax portal as well. They actually also, and taxpayers do those surveys as well, provide us feedback to let us know what we can do better, but they address those taxpayers' concerns that come through our surveys as well.
Okay.
And then finally, we have another branch called our Data Perfection branch.
Okay.
So for those filers, you submit your return, and your return doesn't automatically process through our system. It may what we call hang up or a work list for someone to actually look at the return and determine why the return is not processing through our system. It could be because there's required information that's missing as well, or that A plus B doesn't equal C. Something doesn't add up, and so we have staff that actually work those returns and payments as well that don't post directly to the taxpayer's account.
Okay.
Now, my total operation is comprised of about close to 70 individuals. And then, in this day and time with the budget crisis, we are a little, short-staffed, but everybody is just working, through different processes, and I want to say cross-train to pick up those additional duties where we are short-staffed.
Sure. That makes sense. Do you get any outside help? Do you use any outsourced vendors or any outside businesses to help with your processing?
Yes, we do. A lot of our paper returns are processed actually through a lockbox process.
Okay.
They are limited to some of the things that they can do, of course, because we do take taxpayers' information as priority and making sure that we protect that.
Right.
So district residences can be assured that we do everything we can, especially with paper products, because paper, and your personal information, we make sure we secure that. It gets transported to the site for processing, and then we ensure that we receive all those documents back.
Right, and I'm sure that the lockbox vendor is under the same level of security and responsibility that the district operates under?
Yes, ma'am. We actually do site visits to make sure that they are processing as protocol. They follow documented procedures, and then we work hands every day. We're talking constantly to them, and they provide us with, the reporting every day to tell us where they are in their processes. But it's basically an extension of our operation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Excellent. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I'm going to jump back to you, Brandy, so be ready for me. We got a couple of more minutes. So,
all right.
Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before I get back to Brandy?
Yeah, so listeners, when you're filing your returns, and if you decide you want to send your return or your payment in on paper, make sure you have any additional information that you feel that we should have to apply that payment or that return. Make sure it's accurate. if you have questions, I'm pretty sure our customer service line can assist. We have a lot of information out there on our website. The free filing options are out there. I know they're working on our website now. We have our communications team that is actually rebuilding our website. But our goal in RPA is to really make things efficient for that taxpayer. And I know taxpayers want that refund. So that's what we prioritize, is getting that refund out to our district residents.
That makes sense. Thank you for that, Lisa. Brandy, I'm going to let you wrap up today's discussion with anything else you'd like our listeners to know, or if there's any particular point you'd like to reiterate for our listeners.
Particular point, I would like to reiterate, please, 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 for my business filers, register. Yes, register using the FR 500 for your business so that you are not in any type of liability with the district. You want to be able to make sure that you're licensed and registered. So again, visit dlcp.dc.gov for your licensing requirements, and then register with the Office of Tax and Revenue to file your taxes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that information. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's episode. I want to thank our amazing guests, Lisa Green Meadows and Brandy Bermudez, for joining us to share their expertise and to discuss the very important role RPA plays during the tax filing season and beyond. It's been an absolute pleasure talking tax with both of you, and we truly appreciate your time. To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did, and that these tax tips will be of value to you. We're looking forward to bringing you another great episode, and we hope you'll join us next time. Until then, I'm Jennifer Valentine, and thanks for listening to Tax Talk DC.
Thanks for tuning in to Tax Talk DC with your host, Jennifer Valentine. For more information and resources, visit mytax.dc.gov.